Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of FPL BlackBox. Mark is here. There was some doubts, Mark, about your appearance tonight, but you're drugged up and here you are.
Touch and go, late fitness test. I had to hit the migraine with the codeine, and so I'm a little bit woozy. Might say something silly, more than usual. Maybe won't be able to recall facts as quickly as usual.
Mind games might come in, talk you into someone.
Yeah, I might even make early transfers that I regret. You never know. Oh, already done that.
Oh, you've made your moves already?
Yeah.
Ooh, I've made one. Yeah. One of my two.
Have you? Just the one?
Just the one so far. Yeah, that's going to be
one. Keep one up your sleeve.
Got one up my sleeve. Yeah, I didn't want to go too early and everything. Hi to everyone in the chat. We've got 200 people watching. 300 people watching already. Hi to all of our new members as well to the channel. Mark and I had a great time after Match of the Day Challenge recording these welcome videos.
We did them all, didn't we? We owe Peter one.
We owe Peter one. Peter's brand new, but other members to the Godfather and the BlackBox tier: Dave Lister, Lee, Matt Francis, Piper Maru, Nathan Jobling, FPL Focal, Oscar showing his support.
Never heard of him.
James Palmer, Cage Paps, Angus Chow, Nick Baper, Krusta Tenknevsky, and Yanis Idzak. Hello to all of you. If you haven't already got in touch, do send me an email as fplblackbox.com. I'll get you added to the... Oh, sorry, I haven't got the overlays in the right place.
That's all right. It's only someone insulting me, so don't worry. Hello, Adam.
Business is nice. But do send me an email if you haven't already. We'll get you added to the WhatsApp group. That's what you get if you're in the Godfather tier. You also get a welcome video from Mark and myself as well, which are actually quite fun to do, even though we rattled off about 12 of them in a kind of drunken haze after Match of the Day. But Match of the Day, Mark? Match of the Day Challenge? I saw your shed. You recovered?
Absolutely. Yeah, I loved it again. It's funny how they're always events, aren't they? Very rarely are they non-eventful. And once again, I was on the receiving end of a bit of a spanking. And yes, by a Match of the Day Challenge, I hasten to add, given that you came over my doubt. Let's remove any doubt that you had anything to do with the spanking.
You are on the codeine, aren't you?
I know. I'm all over the shop. No, it was great, wasn't it? It was. We went out, had something to eat, had a few drinks because we were a bit nervous, and I was genuinely nervous. I don't know if anyone out there has also done it, but it does make you, although you don't have the anxiety during the day when the football's going on, it kind of all batches up into one big blob of anxiety before Match of the Day starts, doesn't it? And it's it's nerve-wracking.
I like it in the sense, like you say, you've kind of condensed everything into that hour and a half or whatever. But I find it stressful. It's stressful trying so hard to avoid the scores. I mean, the places I went to all day were specifically designed, and the pub we picked was specifically designed not to have the scores. It's ridiculous to live your life.
You have to think like that, don't you?
You do, yeah. It's not easy, but we had great fun. The spider was the main talking point.
I haven't found it yet. No, Still not found it. It's here somewhere. Apparently, it's enormous. I don't know how I've missed it, but I'm sceptical about the size of it.
It was huge, honestly. Right. It was absolutely huge. You'll see him one day, and you'll think of me.
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
The general reception to Match of the Day was excellent. Mohammed already saying our plans. Can do Match of the Day Challenge as is next time. That is the plan. Hopefully, you'll be coming down to Hitch. I'm going to buy you a chicken, George.
I'll come to yours for spanking. Yep. Hold on, that's next time. Yeah.
I'll get the paddle out. Nice. And maybe it'll be me that finally gets spanked.
I really hope so.
But by a football, because it's always...
This is taking an unusual twist, this episode. But yeah.
New title. Yeah, it is always you though, isn't it? I mean, Estupinan and then we'll be talking a bit about Gabriel a bit later and what to do with him, because obviously you then got punished again with the red card for Tomiyasu and Gabriel comes off your bench. We will mention that in a bit. Let's just mention our sponsor for this episode, which is Lazy FPL. Hopefully the majority of you have signed up to the free newsletter that Ross Merch puts together each week with the Professor, condenses all of the week's action into a 4-minute read. It's excellent. Loads of stats on there, transfer moves, get a bit about what he's doing as well. So do check that if you haven't already. There's a link in the description to that. If you enjoy all the stats we present on BlackBox, all the different things that go on, do make sure you get involved in that newsletter, because it will just break everything down, as I keep saying, a lot more bite size than what you and I do in this 1.5 hour stream.
1.5 hours now. It's officially changed from 2 hours.
But I am delighted to say the predictions are making an appearance. Had a lot of negativity about us dropping those, more than I thought, including my dad, Mark. He was livid.
Chris wasn't happy.
Chris was livid that we dropped it.
Well, they're in tonight, but we're just gonna pick out a few of the scores there and so on. By the way, if the spider turns up, this could be a 10-minute stream. So,
or if your migraine comes back, it might be even worse. Oh God, there's lots of potential for this stream to end early this week. But Lazy FPL, do check it out. As I said, links in the description below. Let's just take a quick look back at our game weeks. Obviously, I'll be doing my team section tomorrow morning, as always. Checking in with Ryan as well. My game week was saved, though, by an unlikely source. Turner in goal with 2, Saliba with 8, Chilwell with 1, Estupinan with 11, Rashford 2, Saka 3, Bruno Fernandes 1, Richarlison 3, awful. But the hero of the hour, the unexpected penalty taker in Odegaard, stepping up, smashing in the penalty, getting 3 bonus as well, 11 points, because Haaland captain blanked, and João Pedro got 0. So, returns from 3 players, Saliba, Estupinan and Odegaard. It's not great, is it?
No, I mean that was bang average score, wasn't it, for the game week? I think, but I mean the Monday night game turned it around for you with 22 points you got from that one fixture with a Saliba clean sheet and bonus and Odegaard pen. I guess we're talking about pens in a moment. It definitely was unforeseen that Saka wouldn't take it, although not totally unexpected that would be under some scrutiny because obviously his record's not brilliant. What do you make of that? Do you think that Odegaard's got him permanently? Because Arteta's comments after has insinuated that, he didn't know anything about it. I mean, I'm laughing.
What a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish. That's classic Arteta. He's definitely gone to the Pep school of bullshitting, hasn't he? Let's be honest. I think he might have done. I don't know. I mean, I saw Odegaard step up and take the first penalty in the Community Shield. Really, really strong penalty. He's been taking them in pre-season, he said, felt confident. Took the ball off Saka. I don't think there would have been any doubt. He's the captain, and if he wanted it, he takes it. And I don't think Saka was too annoyed to let him have it. I think he's probably on them now, right? I can't see it switching back from Saka. He takes one, converts it. He's feeling confident. Why not let him keep him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll be rushing out to buy Odegaard or getting rid of Saka just yet. I think that Saka without pens has got his merits still. Odegaard, over the first 2 games, we'll look at data later, I don't think has shown up in attacking areas as much as I would like, and not as much as we saw last season so far. But then the fixtures have been difficult. Forest at home was more difficult than they expected. And certainly Palace away, as we're going to see later, is a very difficult fixture. So I don't think we can judge Odegaard yet, but I'm not convinced that he is going to follow the 15 goals that he got last season from what I've seen so far, but a very small sample. So let's not make any judgments yet. So at the moment, I would be quite happy to stay with Saka and see where that next pen goes. That's because the rest of my team's on fire, though, probably. But I'm going to stick with Saka. Yeah.
Marcus is on the attack today. Average score, he says. Yeah. Well, speaking of below average teams, below average scores, Mark's team on the screen, 33 points. Let's talk us through it.
Turner 2, Gabriel 1. Gabriel, we'll talk about in a minute. Cash, the clean sheet, Chilwell 1, Rashford 2, Richarlison 3, Diaby 3, Salah captain 5, Campbell to 10, Saka the 3, João Pedro 1 point, and Mazusa 0 with the booking, and then Haaland 2. So 2 returns, pretty awful. Estupinan on their bench with 11. My logic there was I thought Arsenal would keep a clean sheet at Palace and Brighton wouldn't. That's exactly what happened. But of course, what didn't happen was Zinchenko wasn't fit enough to start, so Gabriel didn't start. And therefore, I didn't get the clean sheet that Arsenal won. And plus, I didn't foresee that Brighton would win 4-1 and Estupinan would get a goal and assist, which is very difficult to predict. But because we only had 1 week of data to go on, but based on the 2 weeks now, I think we can safely say Estupinan has kind of stepped up his attacking potential from last season, and he's beginning to look, dare I say it, essential. Probably not yet. I think many would think that Estupinan so far is a must buy if you don't have him, though. Do I overthink? Well, I mean, I was only overthinking in terms of which defender's most likely to get a clean sheet. If that's overthinking, then fair enough. But that's the bread and butter, isn't it? Who gets a clean sheet? So I wasn't thinking which defender's most likely to get a goal and assist. And actually, if I was, Gabriel against Palace would be okay, because Palace are notoriously weak at set play. So it's one of those things. It's my fault because I gave myself the cash option, who obviously did keep a clean sheet, so he was worth owning. But if I didn't have the cash option, if I had like a weak fourth defender, then I would have played Estupinan, obviously. So
it's always been your weakness, cash, isn't it?
Yes, it has. Yes, the things I do for cash.
You were very unlucky. I mean, do you remember a few years ago you made that brilliant? Well, more than a few years ago, you made that brilliant video of you with the toast and the jam. I was gonna bring that back if Estupinan came off your bench, but unfortunately I couldn't do it. But
no,
I mean, Diaby not getting anything in that massive win against Everton.
Yeah, went off after the hour.
Salah missing a penalty. Pedro not starting after looking so good the first game. It was a very unlucky week for you.
Well, the other thing is, had Tomiyasu not got the red, would Gabriel have not got on, or would I got the 11 off the bench?
And
there's a chance.
I'll be eating some jam on toast right now. But
yeah, there was a chance that was the case. But you know, it's not. I mean, like, it's not a reason to fret. It's game week 2, and it's one of those things. And yeah.
And you've acted quickly and made your transfers that we'll talk about a bit later on as we go. Yeah. Great in the goods. I mean, it's quite a kind of a spread out week between 30 and kind of 60 points, given that the template is so kind of strong. I think Fabio got the highest score with 66. I think he's got in Bomo and
look at the rank gain he got. 332.
Yeah, he was right at the bottom, wasn't he? That's now
actually free. Did he get a 3 million rank gain?
Yeah, yes. Probably the highest I've ever seen. Although you went down nearly 3 million, so yes, you weren't too far off. Yeah. But he's got no Arsenal mids, and when we had Matoma and Mbumo as well. So yeah, massive week for him. I'm mid-table, which is probably about where I deserve to be these days. You're bottom, not where you deserve to be, I don't think.
Wow, I was used to that last season for a while.
You're only 1 point behind General, who also had a bit of a stinker as well. So
Joe was top last week, and look, he had a stinker. Yeah. This week. That's amazing, isn't it? How you can, our fortunes can go. Fabio going one way and Joe going the other, because Fabio was bottom and Joe was top. So yeah, it was an odd one. I think a lot had to do with obviously who you picked in your midfield. If you went Salah, and obviously Fabio went the 2-6-5s and played safe with Patoma and Mbumo, and I went with Charleston and Diaby. So there you go, one of those weeks where they came in and the template did well. Template did very well again. So we'll see if it continues. But no panic yet.
Literally watched a video about how to pronounce Mbumo earlier, this week.
And it is Mbumo, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I saw a video of him saying it, and it sounded like.
We have now got access to the videos of every player announcing their name. So we can. Have you watched some of them back? Some of them are a bit odd. Where they are.
They're all filmed.
They announce their name, then look very confused.
Yeah, they're all filmed in slightly different ways, and some of them I don't think know what's going on with it. But it's useful for us.
Yes, very handy. I mean, we were experts at pronunciation.
I know it's just.
And this just makes us even better.
It's when we realised I pronounce about 10% of players correctly. I think.
I haven't seen Chop Remote yet. Hopefully, I'm getting that one right. I'll watch that one back tonight.
I'll send you that one. Yeah. I used to say on Bomo, but it isn't right. It is in Mbumo.
It's in Mbumo. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Let's take a look at penalties, because there was some surprises here. Maybe no surprise that Salah missed. He's been missing a lot of those.
He's like Saka, isn't he? Not convincing.
He's not great. And like I said on the stream, McAllister has to take them, because he is genuinely one of the best penalty takers around.
I don't think he will. I think Salah will keep. I mean, what we know about Salah is he cares about his total of goals, doesn't he? And we know that. I don't think he's going to want to give him up, and I don't think Klopp will take him off him.
I think also the fact that Salah is now playing, this wider role as well, and not always getting so involved in the danger areas, it will be a big loss to his goal scoring, record.
I will warn about that though, because a lot of people are going, "Oh, this is not the Salah we are used to, and he's spending too much time out wide." That's exactly what I said a year ago, if you remember. I was saying exactly that. I was saying he's spending too much time out wide. His game is more about assists now than goals. and he still went and scored a load of points.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can be too hasty in writing Salah off yet. I mean, I've kept him this week because I kind of have to. But yeah, it's funny that people are now saying what I was saying a year ago, which turned out to be, well, first half of the season turned out to be a mistake. He did go through that spell though, didn't he, last season, where he really dipped and a lot of people got off him, and then he picked it up again second half of the season. So he's got this habit of having spells where he looks like he's going to be ineffectual and not be an FPL thing, and then burst into life. We'll see if that happens. But
I just think
penalties, I don't see him losing them yet.
No, I mean it was just a funny game because if he scores that pen, and there was a couple other little moments as well, he could have come away from that with a decent haul. I think in the good fixtures he's going to be someone we're always going to be scared of. But with the fixtures coming up, I'm not particularly worried about owning him. I'm more worried about not having bloody Mbumo in my team. He's taken 2 penalties and scored 2 and had a tap in as well. Yeah,
I mean, and the penalty at Fulham was pretty soft.
Very
I
soft.
thought the one against Spurs, that took a VAR decision, and that was 50-50, I thought. This one at Fulham, I mean, the fact that Ream got sent off, I mean, it's really harsh on Ream, wasn't it? Because I don't think it was enough to give the penalty and to give him a second yellow as well. And then obviously, with 10 men, they got caught at the end as well. One thing I will say about Mbumo, 2 things, right? Even without penalties, as we'll see later, his XG is very high, right? So he could have more points than he's got even than he has now, right? Because he missed a sitter against Spurs, and also he put in some good crosses against Fulham where he could have come away with assists. So although he has been fortunate with the pens and perhaps the tap-in, he's played well anyway, as we're going to see from the data. 2, before the season started, there was a really good thread about Mbumo saying he was a 90-minute man, and I queried it and going, well, okay, you can't really say that based on the data of last season, because the thread was based on his data last season, because he was the most sub player apart from Jensen in the entire Premier League. And I was like, okay, well, he might be a 90-minute man, but I don't think we can say that yet. Turns out, though, after 2 games, we've got to think he is, because he stayed on when Sharda and Wissa were subbed off. So because those 2 are more likely to be subbed, he tends to be the one that's staying on. And of course, he benefited by staying on the pitch by getting the stoppage time goal. So it does look like he has become that 90-minute man that he certainly wasn't last season with Tony out, which was always a chance. And I acknowledge that was always a chance, but, we didn't know for sure.
Yeah.
But he does look it now.
I mean, and
I think we all want to get him in, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, look at Brentford on the penalties received, second most in the last couple of years. 16 received, 15 scored. That's mostly because of Tony's incredible.
This is data since Brentford arrived in the league, by the way, in the Premier League. So they've been second to City since they arrived.
So that's what, 3 years? That's 3 years?
3 seasons, yeah. This is the third. This is the 3rd season. So why do you think that is? Why do you think? I mean, I guess City we probably expect. Brighton maybe we expect because of their intricate play, clever footballers up top. Arsenal the same. Chelsea, Liverpool. These are top 6 sides. Brentford and West Ham. You can't really come up with an explanation. I guess Brentford's pace, the way they play, their full pelt counter-attacking. Do you put it down to that? I mean, what?
Yeah, I mean it must be that. I mean you look at all the teams at the top. It's the players with pace who get into the box and then it comes out and trips them up. And West Ham have got that. I mean they've got the trickiness of like Ben Rama, haven't they? And Bowen kind of on the right. They've also got strong target men up top as well who can get a little shove in the back or a trip. In Tony and Antonio. With Haaland as well. Lots of different ways that they can kind of create them. So, yeah, but I mean, if you'd asked me who had the 2nd and 3rd most penalties in the league since Brentford joined 3 seasons ago, I wouldn't have said them.
United down there with just 8 in the 3 seasons. And that's interesting, isn't it, when we talk about United assets later on, which I think we're going to, in that we often talk about, well, who's going to get them? Is Bruno Rashford on them? But they've been struggling to get them over recent seasons, and that maybe defeating that old claim that the Old Trafford effect on penalties perhaps not been in effect and not been a thing. Also, like you look at the top there, pens per match so far this season 0.47 compared to 0.26. We are seeing some soft pens.
Yeah.
I guess the lesson here, and I think this is one we need to put in the black box lessons, is I think at the start of the season it's a good idea to prioritise penalty takers, because it does seem, and we've seen this before, the referees take a few games to calibrate a bit, don't they, in terms of what's a pen, what isn't. It's happened again.
That's really true, actually.
We just don't know, do we? We can't Like, they'll get it right eventually, then it will calm down. But we've had this before, haven't we?
The trouble is that you get in players you think are on penalties, like Saka and Watkins,
Yeah.
and then over pre-season something's happened and they end up not taking them. So it's not always easy. Although someone like Enzo, for example, steps up, which we kind of thought he would, and misses. What does that mean for him? So yeah, I mean, nailed on. Well, I mean, I thought Saka was a nailed on penalty taker for Arsenal, but I mean, 4 penalties missed. Over the last few seasons, he's missed a couple, hasn't he, over that run? So maybe that kind of feeds into it. But
I mean, there's uncertainty, isn't there? I thought Bowen was going to be on West Ham pens. We didn't know who was going to be on Chelsea pens. Now it's Enzo, but is it Enzo long term? The Arsenal pen, Liverpool pens. The only one who's certain on that list, well, there's 2, and Mbumo and Morris are certainly, I would say, nailed on as the penalty takers. And João Pedro probably now, we think, if he's on the pitch. Other than that, though, there's still a lot of question marks there. The next one, I mean, the next significant one will be if Salah doesn't take the next pen. So we'll have to see what happens, won't we?
Yep. Apologies, everyone. My Adobe just flashed up with a horrible noise.
No, I didn't hear that.
No,
That's fine.
I think that'll just come out on the stream. But yeah, anyway. Over there somewhere. Yep, very interesting. We've got the team data back. Now we've got a couple of weeks.
Small sample.
Very small sample, but always interesting to see the early stages. Team data defence, you're going to be chuffed a bit, so aren't you? City first, no surprises there. Second, Nottingham Forest. Look at the City though. Chances conceded per 90, 0.
That's a bit odd. That must be incorrect.
Is that right?
No, you're not. We should have checked that before, shouldn't we? The XG conceded on penalty is correct though. I don't know why the chances haven't conceded. That clearly isn't correct. I mean, yeah. I mean, what we expect the City defence to turn out to be the strongest so far. They haven't really come under serious threat. Though Newcastle really didn't offer too much in that game, I didn't think. It's a bit disappointing. I thought they'd stretch them a bit more than they did. It was a tight game, that's what we expected though, wasn't it? And Burnley didn't really, have any impact on them in the first game. So they haven't really been tested. I don't think they will be at Sheffield United either. Forest won't stay there, obviously, but I think it's symptomatic. We will be harder to break down away from home than we were last season. And obviously at home we were strong. So
well, considering one of the games has been Arsenal, it's encouraging that that's happened. I mean, going into Manchester United as well. Spoilers, I've already sold a Manchester United player this week. Wow. So I'm hoping that you keep this defensive data. Yeah, you're optimistic you'll give them a game, aren't you?
I think that United, well, it depends. I mean, I think the Mount injury is a bit of a shame for Forest because otherwise I think if they'd have kept the same team, it would be tricky for them. So, yeah, I think it's a shame that I think we have got the wrong data there, by the way. Should we put the right table up?
Is it all wrong?
Yeah, it's all wrong.
Oh.
Or maybe not. Let me just see. Sorry, it's the codeine kicking in.
This is the one you gave it, wasn't it?
Yeah, let me just check. Actually, I've got the wrong sheet open. So I was just trying to see what the actual percentage is for, because obviously for City it must be under 1 chance per match, which is possible.
That's what someone's just said in the chat. They've only conceded 1 shot.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so it is per 90. It is low, but the decimal place is on.
So this is pretty much accurate.
Yeah, it is, and the XG is correct, as I say. Yeah, I think Luton, obviously at the bottom, have only played the 1 game so far, and it's all very small sample, isn't it? But it'd be interesting to see how this shakes up over the season. I expect City will stay there, and Palace, a very strong defence.
Well,
as we know,
that leads us nicely on to Hodgson's Rearguard. With Palace, absolutely incredible since Hodgson took over. In fact, more than incredible, they are the top defence since Hodgson came back in terms of XG non-penalty conceded per 90, 0.75. Newcastle was second with 1.09.
This is since Gameweek 29 last season, so including the 2 games this season. Only 12 goals conceded in the 12 matches. Yeah, I mean, so this is why I looked at this, because I was considering whether to go to Mbumo this week. And I kind of knew in my head that Palace wasn't an easy game anymore. I looked back at the fact that I think Brentford and Palace, over the 4 games they've had so far, they've been 2-0-0s and 2-1-alls. So there's not been a lot of goals in those games. Yeah, I don't know whether you read too much into historical data that much anyway, but they've been low scoring. So I thought I'd dig out, the narrative was that Hodgson turned them into a more attacking team, but what he's done to them defensively is really surprising. I had no idea they would be that high. I mean, you've kind of sensed it with the eye test, and you've sensed they haven't conceded many goals, and we were looking at Johnston, weren't we, pre-season? I think if I'd have looked at this data beforehand, I would have gone to Johnston. But I guess then if you look at the shots conceded per 90, he's not getting save points because they're top for that as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, you know, we've got to reconsider Palace as a home or away as a fixture that we consider to be an easy one when it comes to goals, anyway.
Well, the other question is when we're thinking about defenders. I mean, you mentioned earlier, you went with Gabriel in your team because you thought he had the best chance of a clean sheet, and that's normally what we go for with defenders, and then attacking potential on top of that is a bonus, right? But for me, I'm not picking Crystal Palace defenders because they have zero attacking threat at all. I mean, who's the most likely to get an attacking? The fullbacks never go up the pitch.
No.
Gahey rarely gets any returns. Anderson, maybe he's a presence.
There's nothing, is there? There's nothing unless they get something on set pieces. So Johnston is by far the better pick in that defence because there's no attacking potential, is there? When they used to have Van Aanholt, it was lovely.
Oh, those are the days. But then they weren't as good defensively, so
no, because they had Van Aanholt.
Because they had Van Aanholt, yeah, exactly. No, really interesting. I think Johnston, at the moment, if you're looking at the 4-5 goalkeepers, which we'll come on to in just a second, is probably the standout. I'd say maybe him or Flecken.
Yeah, I think the thing about Johnson is if you only went for 4-5, if Turner lost his place, for example, it wouldn't matter because you could probably play Johnson every week, and you're probably going to get, looking at this data, 8 to 10, maybe even more than 10 clean sheets over the season, which is a decent return for a 4-5 keeper. But also, it's just like if you're not going to Mbeumo or Wissa this week and you're worried, perhaps don't be, because not only does the historical data of that match show that few goals are scored in it, I don't think Brentford are going to find as easy against Palace as they did against Fulham by any means. So, unless they get a soft penalty, which they could again. That would be amazing. If they get another soft penalty, then what do we do? And that's
I'm going
possible.
to that game with no Brentford assets. I am.
Oh, no, with no Brentford players?
No Brentford players. That's going to be fun, isn't it? Hoping for a 0-0.
I mean, you could get one. That's what I'm saying.
Well, exactly. Let's hope so. Palace are in. A few people saying for Henderson, potentially, which would obviously increase competition on Johnston. But he's done nothing wrong, has he? So I can't see him being usurped straight away. Not until he makes it.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I think Henderson is the better keeper, but it's not a foregone conclusion that Johnston will be ousted by any means.
Nope. No. Let's take a look at some team data attack. I'm hoping this one's right. Oh, Bright at the top. Of course it's right. Yeah. XG non-penalty per 90, 2.72. Back where we belong, where we were for so often of last season at the top. It's incredible, the way we're playing at the moment. And we thought Wolves would put up a fight after what they did against Man U. But I think they actually played into our hands quite nicely because they pressed a lot more against Manchester United than a lot of people were thinking. They tried to do that against us and we just carved them open over and over again. But they're third on the team data attack, Wolves. They just can't finish. Yeah,
I mean, it's what we saw for them from last season, wasn't it? They just don't have that killer instinct up front. And so lost you a little bit there. Is that my internet or was that yours?
No, I think it was mine, but we're back.
Oh. Okay.
You didn't boot us off like it did when
no, they didn't. I mean, Neto, we know from owning Neto what he is. He's a very good player, lots of lovely touches, no end product. Podence never was. I mean, he's in the under-21s now. He's not in favour. They've never had a player, really, other than Jimenez, before the injury, who looked like they had the ability to finish off their chances. And surely they've got to buy somebody in before the window closes. Otherwise, if they don't, for all their good football, they're probably still going to be fighting relegation.
Doesn't look like they're going to. I think the money is so tight, and like you say, they just haven't replaced that forward. I mean, Manchester United are fourth as well. I mentioned kind of selling one of their players. Fernandes has left my team. His stats are good.
Is he?
Yeah. He's gone.
Okay.
Unceremoniously dropped from my side.
Interesting.
Talk a bit more about that later. But what do you make of Manchester United? Because we had another great bit of analysis from Ashley Chappell about why exactly they've been struggling, and that was to do with the press of Wolves and Spurs as well in those first two games. Against Forest, we're not expecting such a big press. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we saw it against Arsenal in the first game. They were very happy to just drop very, very deep until around the 60, 70 minutes mark, when you thought you could maybe get something out of the game. And then Awanai came on and you kind of went for it. United against a low block maybe suits them a little bit better with the creativity they've got, as opposed to being pressed, because they can't seem to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that with Mount out, Eriksen will play, and I think Martial will start and Rashford will go wide. I think that's what they'll do, because they've got. I must look at the pronunciation of Rasmus. Is it Rasmus Højlund? Rasmus
Højlund.
He'll be on the bench, so I would have thought that Martial will start, and then he'll come on and Martial will play the hour. And that we think will mean it will unlock Rashford as more of a threat. And I think that change is probably what they need. I was not impressed against Wolves. I thought they were really flat. And I didn't see the Spurs game live because we were doing match of the day. But I wasn't impressed with what I saw in the highlights. And I've read reports and seen clips and there wasn't. They did have chances, but again, they don't look on their game yet. They don't look fit. I don't think they look fit.
And this is why teams that are pressing them are getting joy, because they're pressing them hard, wearing them out. And then, I mean, in the first kind of 25, 30 minutes against Spurs, I thought Manchester United looked quite good and looked like they were going to win the game. And then the fitness, I think, just like you say, just kicked in, and Spurs were pressing them. They were making mistakes, and the game completely turned. It'll be a very different game against Forest.
Lots of talk of saying Sancho could start false nine. Yeah, that's the other option. I don't know if Martial's in favour or whatever, but I think that I think we'll see a change in United. I expect them to come to life. If they don't, if they turn up jaded against Forest, the difference between Forest and Wolves is we've got a player who can score goals. Yeah. So we won't need anywhere near as many chances that Wolves had to score one, because Amwani at the moment seems to be scoring them from every touch. Yeah, he's had 2 shots and he scored them both this season. And obviously he ended last season scoring almost every touch as well. So if we break on them and give him a chance, I think he'll probably score. I think we will get one, but I think unfortunately United will have too much for us if we see an improvement.
Yeah. No, and again, one of the bits of analysis from Ashley was talking about just how important that kind of striker is, because when teams do press, you need to have that out ball out to a strong forward, just to kind of relieve some of the pressure. You can kind of hit the ball out to him under pressure. He's going to take it, give you a bit of space, work the channels, and Rashford just isn't doing that. He isn't good enough to do that, and it's too easy to play against them in that sense.
He's looking very frustrated as well, because I think he's aware that he's not doing what he should be doing and not mimicking the kind of form we saw the second half of the season. And it's frustrating him. We saw him go off against Spurs and very frustrated with himself, or maybe the decision to take him off. All is not well. I mean, Bruno's a bit deeper. We knew that could happen. Maybe that won't happen now that Mount's out injured and Eriksen comes in. I think they're looking a bit frail. They don't have a defensive. Casemiro hasn't started very well. He doesn't look fit. So I think this is a good time for Forest to go there. I'm not going there full of fear. I think we'll give them a game. So yeah, we'll see.
I don't think the Mount injury is going to affect Bruno that much. Eriksen's going to come in. He does kind of what Mount does, but he's a bit older and a bit slower and probably not as fit as Mount was. I think it's a bigger blow than maybe some people think, him being out. So
okay. We'll see. Well, you would say that because you've just sold Bruno.
Exactly. Yep. Did I sell him because of that, or am I just trying to convince myself after having sold him?
I think probably the latter.
Probably the latter. Yeah. The XG on penalty per 90 is high for quite a few of these teams. I mean, Tottenham are down in 11th, but still have an XG on penalty per 90 of 1.51. So in terms of, I don't think there's been more goals than we've normally seen at the start of seasons. I remember the last few seasons there's been a lot. Hasn't felt like there's been loads, but a lot of the teams are putting up really high XG numbers, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, like we've seen. I think we've seen a good start to the season, a positive start to the season. Certainly, game week 1 there was a lot of goals. I think that we had very few clean sheets in game week 1, a few more in game week 2. I think it's been a good, from that standpoint, it's been an enjoyable start to the season. Too many penalties, obviously. That's and too many yellow cards. But that's the referees needing to calibrate and sort that out. So I think it will calm down a bit. And I think typically we tend to see defences taking a while to get up to speed as well. So I think we will have a period where we'll get more clean sheets very soon. But at the moment, it's very hard to predict a clean sheet, I think.
It is.
Unless you're playing, I think Sheffield United, Luton, Wolves, and maybe Everton are teams that we target for clean sheets at the moment. But other than that,
everyone else looks like they can score. Yeah. Arsenal's attacking data isn't great. Actually, on 90 of 1.02. I think Havertz is struggling, like a lot of people, apart from myself, maybe predicted in that role. But they haven't quite got the swashbuckling attack force that we saw last season, have they? They've changed their tactics a little bit, inverting from the right. Havertz coming in, and Nketiah's leading the line for them. But yeah, they look like they're struggling a little bit.
Martinelli's very much affected by having Nketiah in the team, isn't he? So I think that he's not really been, and as I said, Odegaard isn't really showing up yet. But there's 2 games. I think the Fulham game we should see Arsenal with the handbrake off. Whether we'll see more from Martinelli, I don't know. I think Nketiah does influence how much Martinelli comes inside and gets involved in the dangerous areas, because Nketiah is more disciplined, stays more central, doesn't he? Whereas Jesus, there's more interchange between Jesus and Martinelli. But I do think we'll see more from Arsenal against Fulham. I mean, Paulina may play for Fulham, and that will improve them defensively, and they really need it because they have been really poor so far, and they were there for the taking against Everton, but Everton didn't have a goal scorer. Arsenal will definitely take their chances, so we'll see. I think I'm predicting a home win. We'll see by what margin.
Yep, agreed. Let's take a quick look at goalkeepers. We won't spend too long on this. We've still got our 4.0 option. Second, big win for West Ham as well against Chelsea. Chelsea kind of dominated that game, really, didn't they? But again, couldn't take their chances. And Ward-Prowse, in the end, as he so often does, with his absolutely pinpoint crosses. I mean, great. He's a great replacement, isn't he? I know we're talking about goalkeepers, but he's a great replacement, Ward-Prowse, for Rice, I think, for what they paid for him.
Yeah, they've got Alvarez, who's the like for like, who's come in, who's that defensive midfielder. I think Ward-Prowse is the set pieces. I mean, West Ham were already a team that, were very effective at set plays. They did go for a period last season where they just didn't get anything low. They for some reason, Moyes just the goals from set pieces just dried up. So I'm not surprised they've gone for Ward-Prowse, and straight away he gets an assist from a corner, sets up the other goal as well. He is more than a set piece merchant, obviously. Ward-Prowse, he does a lot of work and he's passing solid. He's not a spectacular player other than when there's a dead ball situation, but I think it's a very good signing. Makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, is he an FPL asset? Probably not this season with the options we've got. It's funny, isn't it? If you go back 5 years, everyone was tipping Ward-Prowse to be, that's a player we're going to want in a few seasons. It's never quite happened, even now, is it?
No, I mean, he had penalties at one stage and free kicks and everything, but just never really hit the heights. I mean, in terms of keepers, I mean, I don't think there's going to be many people doing it. I mean, I have seen a few wildcards deployed.
The 2-4 millions.
Yeah, would you go for the 2-4 millions, or would you stick with? I mean, we talked about maybe Sanchez and Areola, or I still like my Onana and Turner combination. I'm still quite happy with that. Who'd you pick?
Yeah, I think we need a bit more time, a bit more data before we're clear on what the best combination is. I think that's why I probably would delay the wild card till after the Gameweek 8 international break, rather than play it in between 4 and 5, because I don't think that'll be enough to go on. And things like the best goalkeeper pairing is the kind of thing you need a bit more data on, I think. Yeah, I don't think I'd go the 2-4 millions. We looked at the rotation last week, didn't we? And over the early fixtures, it's really tough. So, and West Ham so far, I think they will improve defensively once perhaps the new signings are bedded down. But and Forest, we'll see if they are as strong as the early XG data suggests. Then perhaps that 4 million pairing will happen with some legs. But at the moment, it's too early to say. You're safe going with a 4-5 and Turner, I think, at the moment. And Onana, yeah, we'll see. The jury's still out for me on United's defence and also Onana. We'll see.
Yep. Defence then. Let's take a look at some of these. Obviously, there are some unfortunate souls like myself who still have Reece James in their side. Let's start with Gabriel first, though. What do you do with Gabriel at this stage? I know what you've done with Gabriel, but
yeah,
it's now looking more likely than the last 2 weeks he's going to start, because Tomiyasu's out, Zinchenko's back, and that surely means Gabriel comes back into the team. But is the risk enough to sell him, do you think?
I think that there's some concern still. I think that we've got to hope that Zinchenko comes back in and Gabriel gets his place back as expected as the left centre-back. That's what we're expecting. The question was, were you willing to take that risk going forward when the price was dropping? And at this stage in the season, if you've got Salah in your team, that's a problem. I've got Salah, right? So while 0-1, 0-2, 0-3 doesn't matter for most managers because we've got plenty of money, you don't have plenty of money if you've got Salah. And it's like, well, if you at the moment I'm thinking, well, I want to hold Salah because he obviously could be an affected differential, and while he's not looked amazing so far and the fixtures aren't great this week, he's still a hold for me until the wild card. So with that in mind, I've got to protect my budget, I think. And is it 100% Gabriel starts Saturday, the weekend? Not really, I wouldn't say. Is it 100% that he's a starter every week? Not really, because we thought he was coming into the season. He
was like the most nailed on defender you could pick going into the start of the season. Yeah.
I mean, he was always the one that of the two, Saliba and Gabriel, he was the one most suspect, most likely to make a mistake, perhaps. That's the narrative. But no one saw this coming when he played more minutes than anyone pre-season. This is it for me. For me, I wasn't 100% that he starts against Fulham. I'm 90%, but that wasn't enough when the values drop in. And also, I've moved to a player that has probably got a better fixture anyway, right? So I think it was an easy move. It facilitated being able to get Pedro out as well, and it meant that I didn't lose 0-3 or whatever it would have been. So at this stage in the season, I like to protect funds, and with Salah in your team, you kind of need to. Obviously, there's a chance I won't keep Salah, but I want to lock money in to give me the chance to keep Salah and not miss out on buys. So that's why I did it. If you've got Gabriel and you haven't got fires to put out elsewhere that you need the money, then it's going to be fine to keep him. I would say 90% certainly starts. Yeah.
I mean, the kind of popular players that people are looking at for James or Gabriel moving out are Rico Henry, who's 9th on the list, 0.36 ex-John on penalty 90, really, really high for him. You've got your new recruit, to ruin that, which is the 4 million Gusto, who's come in. Does play quite a lot more reserved than we see James play. Just 0.1, but he costs 4 million, and he's got a couple of really good games coming up, and James will be out till after the international break, surely. So you're going to get
I think the decision was on the basis that I'll get the Luton and Forest games, and in every chance I'll get a bit more than that, because if I was Pochettino, you don't rush him back, do you, James? You give him as long as possible. So he might even be out until the following international break, but it's still worth it for 2 games, I think.
And then the other one is Gvardiol, who is just 5 million, started the last game as well. I think he'd be my pick if I was going to pick someone. Got that threat of Ake there as well, so not fully nailed, but we see from Pep that he loves to give his defenders minutes when he's
I still want more data though before I'm going to commit to a City defender. I think like it's still a bit risky going with one right now. It's tricky. I mean, I thought Ake was going to be the most nailed City defender. Then Godfather got signed, and now perhaps he is. But Stones, I think, will be when he's back. Stones has dropped to 5-3 now, hasn't he? So he's going down all the time. So he could be almost 5-1 or even 5 million by the time he's fit again, the way it's going. So he still tempts me. So if I was going, I'm going to delay my decision on the City defence to the point where perhaps Stones is back.
I like Gvardiol. I still am considering getting him this week if I do move Reece James out, just because I don't think he's going to come on if he's benched. He doesn't always bring on defenders, does he, Pep? When he's made his choice, he lets them kind of carry on and see what it is. But then again, he has got fewer options than he had in previous seasons, so he might need to make some decisions. You're a big fan of Doku, aren't you? Who's coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I saw him pre-season against Forest, and I got to say, I was really impressed. I think that he causes us a load of problems, lots of pace, lots of trickery, very direct, seems to have a goal threat. It's another interesting signing by City, isn't it? Because they haven't gone and signed like a 100 million top class, world class player. They've gone and signed a player who's got a load of potential, a bit like we saw this with Leroy Sané, isn't it? It's a player who's got the potential to be incredible, and he's on the way to getting there. But they've signed him at a time when his years where he really hits the elite status are still to come. So we know that Pep will ease him in, though. We know that players tend to have a difficult first season, like Grealish did at City, before they find their place in Pep's system. But he is going to be a threat to minutes, isn't he? So it'll be interesting to see where he plays him, because he can play right or left, and who comes under threat from that.
And if he can stay fit, because that's been a problem that he's had for quite a few seasons now.
Yeah.
Just getting the minutes in. Coming back to defenders, I know we keep getting sidetracked. Just a little shout out. I know you've got Cash, who's 5th, 0.51. But there is a player, an FPL legend, who has got...
He got 2 assists tonight, hasn't he?
He's got 3, I believe.
3 assists tonight.
I think so.
Right.
Yep, 3 assists for Luca Dean, 4.5. I mean, no, I'm not going there ever again.
Well, Moreno's the threat, isn't he? When he's fit, surely he gets the nod. Dina's getting forward because that's the way Emery plays. He lets one of his fullbacks get forward, and Dina's got the quality, we know. It's weird how he always tempts us, isn't it? He always finds a way to tempt us.
It's always early in the season when you forget all the pain he's caused, and then he comes in, and then you get quickly reminded. If anyone brings him in, he's getting a red card next week. That's just
he has new ways of trolling us each time. Whether he'll go and get sent off, or whether he'll get an own goal, or whether he'll get subbed on 59 minutes and miss a clean sheet. He always seems to find a new way of making us curse him. So yeah, bring him in at your own risk, basically.
Moreno for me. When Moreno's fit and he looks like he's going to be coming in, when Villa have got some decent fixtures as well, I'm all over that at 5 million. It's just knowing when to bring him in, because obviously he's had the injury, and obviously Dean started the season well. So if Moreno does come in, you probably don't want to jump on him straight away, because he might play one and then miss one until he's back to full fitness. So kind of trying to work out when the best time to bring him in, I think is going to be really important. Let's move over to mids. We've already talked about Doku already, who I imagine will come in as a mid. This worries me a little bit. Bruno Fernandes, top of the midfielders so far this season. XGI non-penalty penalty of 1.06. Missed an absolute sitter against Spurs. When we were worrying about the spider, we missed his header.
Yeah, we missed that chance.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, his assist potential is really high. I mean, 3.5 chances created per 90. He's one of the best in the league as well, and then has the sitter. So he's top. I mean, do you think I'm mad for selling him?
I probably would have given it more time. I haven't seen your team and what options you had. Did you have to sell him? Is the funds enabling something? I mean, what was?
I had to sell him to be able to upgrade Pedro, which was the reasoning, and that has changed.
Now you don't need to, do you?
That has changed today, because third on the list, Enciso, we think he's going to be out for a few weeks. We're going to talk a bit about Pedro when it comes to strikers. Talk about potential replacements for those as well. Essentially, what I've done is I've done Fernandes to Foden, who is 16th on the list, and as you well know, I love him more than most in the league, but he was absolutely outstanding in their last game, man of the match. And like you said, he's going to find pockets of space, I think, against Sheffield United, who I just think have been so poor. And I don't think there's a lot in it between Fernandes and Foden this week. If you were going to pick one for the week, I think it would probably divide people 50-50. And using that money with the other free transfer lets me upgrade Pedro to either an Alvarez or a Jackson, which I think is a big upgrade given the fixture.
Yeah, I think that I think this is a good fixture for Foden. What I've seen of Sheffield United so far, they gave Eze a lot of space, and Eze had a lot of impact against them in the first game. He didn't return, but he had ridiculous numbers. I think he had like 8 shots on goal, 5 chances created, something ridiculous like that. He was the standout player in Gameweek 1 in terms of data without returning. And then I saw them against Forest, and they gave Gibbs White similar space in that pocket between the lines. More than I don't think I've seen Gibbs White being able to turn unmolested like he was against Sheffield United. most of the time, Gibbs White's got a player on him and he's having to beat a player, having to turn with a player on his back. Against Sheffield United, about 4 times he received the ball in a pocket and just was able to turn around and run at them. And he didn't punish them. His end product wasn't good. But that made me think Foden and Alvarez in that position for City, if Sheffield United don't close that space and they're able to work between the lines, they're going to murder them. So I think Foden, as we know, as we saw, was playing that number 10 role against Newcastle really well. And even against the best defensive side or one of the best defensive sides, still terrorised them and found space. Against Sheffield United, I think he could have a field day. So it's just end product, really. What we're going to get, if Foden has a good game, what you're going to get? A couple of assists? Whereas with Bruno, he's got the penalties, hasn't he? And he's got the creativity from set pieces that Foden doesn't have. I think it's quite close. I'm not sure I would have done it, but
I mean, if it was just a like for like swap, I wouldn't have done it. It was giving myself the option to go up to one of the other strikers. Because
are you going to do that then?
Yeah, I still think I'm going to. Yeah, I think Pedro is a risk now. I didn't think he particularly would be. I just didn't like those comments from De Zerbi mentioning his work rate, because we do have plenty of players in that who can play in and around that number 10 role. He could easily shift someone up. He could easily play Ferguson and Welbeck together. There's lots of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that Pedro's going to suddenly come in and play 90 minutes. I think his position is still at risk. It's good news for owners with Enciso, and it's made me kind of question it, but I don't think it's the guaranteed.
I think, we knew that at the start of the season and we still got it. So I don't think much has changed. What changed for me was Enciso coming in and getting those 2 returns.
He was unbelievable. He was absolutely that outside of the foot pass he did for one of our goals was. Yeah, for March was incredible.
Had I known he would, I made the transfers before early, so I took the risk. And obviously the news on Enciso, would I have still made the transfers? Probably, because of the fact that the funds wouldn't be there. The players that I wanted have gone up in value. The players that I would have kept have gone down in value. So there's quite a swing. I think a 0-3 swing. I'm okay with it, but obviously if you've got João Pedro now, I don't think it's a sell. It's not necessarily. So I'm surprised you're still going to do it. So I think he starts this game, but it depends who you're moving to. Who are you able to move to up front?
Well, Jackson or Alvarez. Chelsea against Luton. I know Chelsea haven't been great, haven't won in a while, but you've got to still think they've got enough to score a couple against Luton. Luton haven't played for a few weeks now. Chelsea did enough in that game against West Ham to win the match. It's just whether Jackson is that kind of finisher up top. He had another decent game. He's getting chances. He just doesn't seem to be, the clinical striker, which they haven't had for so long.
We're going to look at him and forwards in a minute, aren't we?
Yeah.
Just further down this list, look at Richarlison. Both got him. 72nd.
72nd. I couldn't even name 72 midfielders. That's so bad.
He is playing a very disciplined striker role, almost Haaland-like not in the goal scoring, but in the not getting involved with any of the approach play and just staying down the middle. That's clearly what he's been told to do, because he is a player, as we know, who drifts out wide, and I think probably him not getting any of the ball is probably frustrating him. How long are you going to give him? Because Bournemouth away could be a good fixture. Obviously, it's a keep, but how much longer do we give him, given the data we're seeing out of him?
They're good games after that as well, aren't they? Is it Sheffield United and Burnley, something like that?
Have you got the ticker there?
It's Bournemouth. Yeah, I have ticker. Yeah, it's so Spurs go to Bournemouth, then Burnley, then Sheffield United. I'll probably keep him for those 3 games unless they sign another striker, or there's kind of danger they're going to put Son up front and he won't play. Because if he has another poor game against Bournemouth, it might be that Postecoglou just says, I'm going to take you out the firing line for a bit.
The thing is, it's not he's having a poor game. It's just they're not getting him the ball. They're not getting him chances, are they?
It's even less likely with Maddison out now as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So, I guess Lo Celso will come in. We'll see. I think we've got to give him a bit more time, given that he's playing such a disciplined striker role. You'd think in that role for a team managed by Postecoglou, he will get opportunities.
It wouldn't massively surprise anyone, I think, if he... Well, actually, it might surprise a few people. Actually, it would surprise me. I completely take that back. But he's capable of getting a hat-trick, against Bournemouth. because Spurs are playing very attacking.
I hope I would have clipped that and go, there we go.
The game is, is a striker playing for a top attacking side like Spurs with good fixtures can just suddenly come out of nowhere and do quite well. The stats don't indicate that he's going to, but the fixtures, are a good. And we knew the first two games for Spurs might be difficult, and they've kind of excelled really, I think, on what we were expecting in those two games. Difficult away game against Brentford, but really good in that, and then beating Manchester United. So I'm giving him time. The trouble is with the 6.5 million mids looking so good with Matoma, with Mbumo as well. It's the options are so good around his price point that you don't want to hand him.
I still think that a player playing centre forward as a midfielder for 7 million, we can give him more time. I think, like you say, those next three fixtures, providing there's no incomings. I mean, if they do get Brennan off Forest, I don't think that's going to be an immediate threat to Richarlison at all. I think that is just an alternative to Kulusevski, who's got more goals than him. So we'll see what Spurs do in the market. If they don't sign a forward, we've got to give him those 3 games, I think, given the fixtures. But we'll see. If you had Maddison, would you be in any way tempted to do Maddison to Richarlison? Well, now? Yeah. No, because there's too many options that are producing output in the Brighton players, March and Matoma and Mbumo. It's you can't make a case for Richarlison other than the fact that there's every chance a return is coming because of the role he's playing in a team that should be scoring goals. So I think he's a hold for now, but I don't think he's a buy by any means at the moment. One player who did impress me, who isn't featuring very highly on this list, but you have marked, is Sterling in 53rd. I thought he had a good game really against West Ham. Look back to kind of his old self. Don't know if you've seen his recent video where he's getting taken the mickey out of by the kids at the school as well for his run. No, I haven't. No. Look that up. It's very amusing. I think it's for Clark's, the shoe sellers. Oh. But no, it's a good ad. But it shows a bit of humility to him. Too, but I mean, performance-wise, as I said, I thought he was really good. Touches in the box, 11.6. That is the second highest, I believe, of all the players on this list. Second to Mudryk. Oh God, I think he could have about 50 touches without scoring. Mudryk's only had 55 minutes, so that's skewing that. So he actually is with Jota having the most touches. I think that he was very direct, driving at the defence, and for me, if I was buying Jackson this week, that would be the main reason. The fact that Sterling looks to be on it, and if there's going to be a source of goals for Chelsea, as in a provider of goals, it's going to be Sterling, I think, against Luton. I don't look elsewhere in that Chelsea team and see, without James, too much creativity, because they're not getting that crossing from the right that we saw with James on the overlap. But what they are getting is Sterling inside, driving at defences and causing a lot of panic and uncertainty. So I think that, buying Jackson on the basis that Sterling could provide him with some chances is probably a sound investment. Would I buy Sterling? I don't know. I think we need to see, again, more data, more weeks, but it's really positive. And if he can start having output in goals and assists, then 7 million, suddenly we've got another viable option there, haven't we? Which, if you're holding Rashford and Bruno for this week, and Sterling has had a really strong game against Luton, suddenly Sterling's going to come into the thinking, isn't he? Yeah, I think Chelsea do have a good run. Right? If I had kind of no other fires to put out, and I had Richarlison maybe at 7 million, and I was looking at Sterling compared to Matoma and Mbumo, and I think Sterling is got to be up there to consider a 7 million, just because the fixtures are just so nice. Okay, let's take a look at forwards. Top of the pile, Neil Maupay. Look at that. XGI non-penalty penalty of 1.18. Don't think we'll be going there. Visser is intriguing, though. 1.08 has a kind of potential option for alternative to Mbumo, having a really, really strong start to the season. And I thought, look, the better player in pre-season. He was the one I was more tempted by than Mbumo. But I mean, Mbumo's still great and he's got the penalties. But Visser is someone we maybe should be considering. I think so. I think like today's move with Cameron Archer moving from Villa to Sheffield United may scupper that. I think that because if we get Archer available as a 4-5 forward, I think that we're all going to go with that. And then that obviously means you're going to only have one other forward other than Haaland, right? So would that other forward be Visser? Possibly. I mean, there are Jackson, there are Alvarez, there are Watkins. So Wissa's then competing for that one spot. And obviously, Mbeumo's popularity means very few will double on Brentford. I think we've got to think that Brentford won't maintain the scoring rate we've seen. They just won't. Right, so there will be some regression. I think it's one of Mbeumo and Wissa, isn't it? And I guess Mbeumo's popularity plus the competition up front, I mean, Wissa won't get the ownership that perhaps his form so far and his potential going forward deserves. But yeah, had I not signed Alvarez, because I do think Alvarez is a good bet for these next two, I would definitely be looking the way of Wissa.
Who is the crazy dog bark in the background? So it's just a dad posting stuff. Is that Nigel?
Yeah, that's Nigel.
Is that Nigel?
That is.
Yep.
Yeah.
I met Nigel last week. Absolutely lovely. Loved him, but yeah, has got a bark on him for sure.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to burgle your house or
No,
shed.
No.
Let's talk about Jackson. Let's talk about some of the kind of the Chelsea options. We've mentioned Sterling kind of already. Chilwell still a must.
I think so. He was subbed early. That was an interesting one, wasn't it? Chilwell was off, and then Colwell moved to left back, and I don't read too much into that. I think he's captain, as we know, in James's absence. Some source of creativity, gets forward a lot, and I think as well as Jackson being able to profit from Sterling's form, and maybe Chilwell as well. I think when James comes back, that's when Chilwell's potential is even greater because the cross is coming over. But until then, we're going to hold. I mean, the fixtures are so good; it's going to be crazy. And if you haven't got him, I think he's the priority over Jackson for a Chelsea player, I would say. So yeah, I think you don't have to think too much about that. Elsewhere, we talked about Sterling already. He would probably be my midfielder of choice. I don't think we can go to... Well, we can't go to Chukwuemeka now because of the injury. We're not going to go to Gallagher or Modric. We haven't seen enough yet. I don't think there's Enzo you can make a case for if he holds penalties, but that's a big if. I think we need to see with Chukwuemeka what they do. You think Casiedo will come in and one of Enzo or Gallagher get pushed forward, I presume, right?
I mean, that was definitely not the right pronunciation of Casado, but
that was not.
nice. Yeah,
right.
Casado comes in £115 million. I think they desperately need to get him in the side just to give them a bit more protection from their defence because they're struggling a bit. I thought Colwell struggled against West Ham as well. Silva's a brilliant player, but I mean, how old is he now? They need that bit of extra protection. So I think he comes in. I think the potential's there for Chelsea because although again they've signed all these players and they're a bit disjointed, I do see a bit more about them than we saw under Potter and definitely than we saw against Lampard. And these are good players they've bought. I was impressed with Lavia last season. Casado is an elite player. Sterling, if he's going to be back to his best. I think Jackson's going to keep getting chances and hopefully can convert them. And the fixtures are there. So I'll be going in with two Chelsea players into this run. And I'm actually quite glad in a way they haven't scored too many goals and things. Like Jackson, for example, he's had 2 bookings, no goals. But that's keeping his ownership down. If he'd scored in the last game, I think his ownership would be absolutely soaring. And you could argue it's the same with Fernandes, right? If he scores that header, maybe I'm more reluctant to sell him. It's still very fine margins at this stage. But yeah, I like some of the Chelsea assets, and I want to be going into Luton at home on Friday with one attacker. And I think Jackson is the one for me just because Sterling uses a spot.
Yeah, I think he is. I think with the fixtures they got Luton and Forest, right? I think you look at those next 2 home games and think we should see Jackson get off the mark in the Premier League in those 2. You'd expect a goal at least. I still need to see more of him in this Chelsea team, and we still need to see this Chelsea team settle into a pattern. I mean, it's a shame James has got that injury because obviously he's, I think, such a big factor in so many ways in that team. They're very different with James in the side, I think, both in defence and in attack. So we won't see the real Chelsea until he returns. Jackson, yeah, I think it's not a gamble, is it? Because I think that the fixtures are so good. He is going to get chances. Is he a prolific predatory striker? I don't quite think so. I'm not yet convinced that he is a 20-goal striker. So I don't know what his merits will be over the season, but certainly in these next 2, it's got to be worth the go, I think, because he will get chances against defences that will give up good quality chances, I would imagine.
We wanted to see him with Nkunku, didn't we? Because that link-up looked like it was working really well pre-season, and that obviously got stalled by Nkunku's injury. But any striker playing for a top 8-ish side with the fixtures they've got look really good. Just a shout, we've had some super chats already. Like, we really appreciate those. We will answer those at the end just because it would disrupt the flow. Then again, the flow for this episode has been all over the place. We talk about Doku during defenders and everything. But yeah, to Shanna Russell and Chisel Planet, thank you very much. We will get to those at the end, so stick around. Don't let me forget, Mark. Oh, bloody Adobe's come up again. Why does this keep coming up? Turn off all notifications.
It's all fine. It's all fine. It's not happening on screen, so it's all good. No, they're not hearing it.
They can hear it, I think. Just you can't. It's fine. Oh. Pedro Replacements. I mean, firstly, before we even talk about Pedro Replacements, is he a sell now?
It was interesting, isn't it? Because he certainly was before the Enciso injury. I don't think he is that sell now. I think long term he is, because we know that there's threat there. But we always knew that when we got him in. We knew that there'd be some risk, but I thought he would have a longer run in the team before Enciso became a threat to him. How long is Enciso out? We don't know. It's a knee injury. We've heard very little on it so far, but we've got to think he's going to be out till after the break at the very least, right? So I don't think he's necessarily a sell at the moment. I think there are upgrades. I think that, if you look at Wissa, you look at Alvarez, you look at Jackson, they're all upgrades on him, I think. Because I think that his minutes are going to get, they are in question every game. Whereas you look at Wissa and you look at Jackson, that isn't the case. Alvarez maybe, but Alvarez has started and finished 90 minutes, so far not. So I think those three players, I think for the spell we're about to go into, because Brighton have got a couple of tricky fixtures, they are worthwhile swaps anyway. Would I do it? I would if I had nothing else to do, perhaps, and I had 2 transfers and I had to burn one. But I don't think it's an urgent thing anymore. Who do I prefer out of this? I've gone Alvarez, because I do think the Sheffield United Fulham games, probably 2 of the 3 best fixtures you can have at the moment. I think that the Fulham defence has looked pretty dreadful, and I do think Sheffield United the quality gap is still, they're still settling down as a side. They don't have a defensive midfielder yet who can play 90 minutes. They've got Sousa, who came in and played an hour at City Ground. But like I said, they gave up a lot of space to Gibbs White. I think that Alvarez and Foden will have some joy against them. And then it's Fulham at home, which at the moment looks a plum fixture. So I prefer Alvarez. Jackson not far behind. The only reason I prefer Alvarez, I think Alvarez is a better player in a better team. Simple as that. But I think Jackson's a great pick as well. And Wissa, well, you can't... Although Palace at home looks a tough fixture, I don't think there'll be many goals in that. They follow that up with Bournemouth at home, which is, I think, a bit more favourable. So 2 home games, you'd back him as well. So I think it's merited moving off Pedro, but not urgent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going with Jackson because I've got Foden. Essentially, I think Alvarez would tempt me, but I mean, the issue is Doku's coming in. What does that mean for Foden? What does that mean for Alvarez? What does that mean for the kind of the team structure? There's rumours that they're looking at Eze as well, and is it Kuna as well they're looking at, or someone else? There's a Wolves player they're looking at.
Nunes.
Is it Nunes? Not Kuna. Yeah. So, again, if they sign both of those, does that mean, like you said, that Alvarez is too good to be benched, but there's just more of a risk. Chelsea haven't got anyone else that can play that 9.
Yeah, Jackson's nailed, and unless, I mean, Brozier's coming back from injury, I don't see him being a threat for weeks. I mean, and even when he's fit, Jackson's got to be first choice. Unless they sign a forward, they're talking. There was talk today about Balogun maybe going across from Arsenal. If Balogun arrives, then Jackson has got competition, right? Yeah. There's no question, because Balogun, we know, had a very good season in France, so he will be a threat. And then we'll see his minutes.
They won't sell Balogun to Chelsea.
I wouldn't have thought so. No, I wouldn't.
They're already asking for about 45-50 million, aren't they?
Unless it's an FP thing when they have to get rid of him. So so I don't know. We'll see.
If Chelsea go and spend 70 million on Balogun, I think I just give up with football.
Is it 70 million? I think we're talking about 40.
Well, if they want 40 or 50 from abroad, they've already said to Spurs it's going to increase to 60, 65. They'll try and get as much as they can from
Chelsea. You try and get as much money as you can.
Exactly, that's what we did.
Yeah,
we quoted them at 100.
Did.
We quoted them 100, and they ended up paying us 115.
I mean, it's 25 million for Sanchez that I thought was really cheeky.
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I think if you're moving off Pedro, you've got nothing else to do, and you think, I think there are 3 players that I would say are upgrades in Wissa, Alvarez, and Jackson.
Yeah.
And I definitely think if you're not getting Foden, Alvarez would be the preferred option.
Yeah.
But Jackson,
I think exactly the same. I think Pedro, if Encesa was in the team, I would say that he would start again for sure this week. But he's got this injury, and it probably means Pedro's going to come back in the side. I wasn't expecting March to have the start to the season that he's had. Not only is he scoring, he looks super fit as well. And he barely featured for us over pre-season too. So I wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting Ferguson to maybe come into the factor a bit more, but Welbeck is still starting. Matoma's just been unbelievable. It was a great assist in the first game, a lovely cross, and then he just smashing 3 players and leaving them on the ground to score that goal shows that what he's about. And I think I was hoping that Pedro with the pens could maybe match those, but with the uncertainty of his minutes and things, I think he's just not as good an option as those two. So if you want to go for Brian, I think you get one of those two, and then like you say, you go up with Pedro to a Vissa or Jackson or an Alvarez, because I just think those 3 are better options than him going forward.
Yeah, and I think with Cameron Archer being our third striker very soon, as I say, it's one slot, right? So if you're prioritising who's your other striker alongside Haaland and Archer, you've got Vissa, you've got Alvarez, you've got Jackson. Where does Pedro come against those 4, against those 3? He's probably last on the list, isn't he? I would say against those, and unless it gets to a point where Alvarez looks like he's not got a start, but I don't think that's yet.
Nice comment from Hunter Type. Listen to this: no shouting, no confrontation, no complaining. Maybe I think missed the start of the stream.
No sales talk.
Definitely missed the start of the stream. Just a lovely conversation chat. Thank you.
It's laid back chat is what we do. Laid back chat with lots of data is what we do. This is what we do. There's a lot of excitable content creators out there, and I've had a headache, so I can't be excitable. So there you go.
Well, there's 1,362 people watching live. We really appreciate all your support. Again, a shout out to all of our lovely membership people as well across all 3 of the tiers. We really appreciate all your support, so we can keep doing this. And I have to say, Mark, well done for doing it today. I know you had the migraine. Appreciate you turning up.
I was in bed from 5 o'clock till about 6:30, 7:15, and it was like, I'm just about past fit. So
I was about to start putting the feelers out to see if I could get a.
I would have been gutted to miss it, because obviously we both contributed to the prep beforehand, and then when you prep for the show and you know what you want to talk about, it's like, to miss it would be gut. And also people would go, oh yeah, bad game week. Oh, how come?
Yeah, me. Not confrontational.
Another super chat has arrived there. Are people spotting the Matty Cash pop up with that? Do they think that's the logo for the Matty Cash is up there to signify the super chat?
I don't know how you set that up. I am quite impressed. Oh, that bloody noise is killing me. I'm just trying.
We're not hearing it when it's fine.
No, you're not. That's because it's not coming through. Oh yes, I'm just trying to get the super chat. Hang on. Sorry. Okay, this isn't good viewing. Right, predictions are back. Well, a brief rundown of predictions. Mostly for my dad. My dad was funny. He was he said to me, he's like, oh, good episode last week. I was like, it's nice to do an hour and a half rather than 2. It's something we wanted to do for a while. And he was like, I was upset you lost the predictions though. And I was like, yeah, but we had to cut something. And he's like, well, what was the point of asking people then? You asked people if you should cut the predictions, and they've all said no, so you can't cut it now. Never ask a question where you only want one answer.
He's got a point.
I was like, yeah.
He's got a point. Yeah. No, and I'm all for it, because I want the garden centre game to be a thing still, because I do love seeing the smiling face of Alan Tishmarsh, and so there's no way I wanna lose that. So we'll just go through this quick one, pick out anything controversial.
Yeah.
Can you see anything controversial there?
No, I'll read through. I mean, Chelsea Luton both gone for a Chelsea win, 3-0 and 2-0. Bournemouth Spurs. I've gone for a Spurs win, 2-1. You've gone for a draw. Obviously impressed with Bournemouth so far.
Yeah, I think I don't see that Bournemouth are the whipping boys. They've made some good signings. I like them under the new manager, so I'm going for a draw there.
Yeah. Arsenal Fulham both gone for an Arsenal win. Brentford Palace. I've gone for a 1-0 Brentford, probably an Mbumo pen. You've gone for a 1-1 in that. It should be a close game. Both teams have looked good. I think Palace were unlucky against Arsenal as well. Should have had a pen, I think. Everton Wolves, we've gone different here. I've gone for a 1-0 Everton. You've gone for a 1-0 Wolves. It's a proper relegation battle already, isn't it? 3 weeks in.
Really big game, isn't it? And neither team have got goals in them, and they've got mistakes at the back in them. So a low scoring. I mean, it could be 0-0, couldn't it? I mean, you both gone one either side. It could be 0-0. Yeah.
United Forest, you both gone for a 2-1 Manchester United, but both gone for a bit of a fight from Forest.
I think we'll go 1-0 up.
Do you?
And they'll peg us back. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, they nick it towards the end. That'd be a shame.
Bruno brace.
Brighton West Ham. I've gone for a 2-2. You've gone for a 2-0. A comfortable Brighton win. I just think so. West Ham's a tricky one. I wasn't expecting them to turn up as well as they did against Chelsea. They do turn up against some of the big sides. We've got a good record against them though, in previous seasons. So yeah, could be that way. And maybe I just think 3 wins in a row for Brighton. I can't even get my head around that.
Why not? Top of the league. Yeah,
I know.
Flying.
Yeah. Burnley Villa with a big performance for them, 5-0 tonight in their conference, Europa League conference kind of qualifier. You've gone for a 3-1. I've gone for a 2-0 against Burnley. Both gone for a Man City win against Sheffield United. I've gone 4. You've gone 3 as well. And they've both gone for a draw in the final game, Newcastle-Liverpool. I've gone for a 1-1. You've gone for a 2-2.
Yeah, I think there'll be goals in that. I think that Liverpool's goal power will get past that Newcastle defence, and obviously Liverpool's defence will always concede chances. So I think there'll be a game of goals. I hope so. Yeah, and I do think City will win convincingly at Sheffield United. It's not that Sheffield United won't put the effort in. I just think the gap in quality, the ruthlessness of City will come through in that game, and we'll see. I think we'll see a bit more from Foden to make us think that we may need it in our teams. He always does this. He always has a spell. Remember that Brighton game where we got, I think, the double, and I wildcarded afterwards to get him, and then he disappeared.
Oh God! So this always happens with you and Foden.
It looks like we must have him. He's got to be in our fantasy teams, but I think we're about to go through that again.
You are awful at timing Foden.
Yeah,
absolutely awful. So,
which is why I've gone Alvarez.
I'm glad. I know. I'm glad. If I'd bought him at the same time as you, I'd have been worried. But I'm better at. He's just the one player. I'm terrible at everything else. But Foden, for some reason, we and him just have a really good relationship. And James, but now that's broken for me too as well.
His hamstring.
So there you go, Dad. Predictions are back. Hope you're happy.
The game, if we had one, would be Burnley Villa, I guess. But is that live? I guess the Sheffield United Man City game is live, is it? I'm not sure which is the live game there.
It can't be Burnley Villa. No, it's not. It's Sheffield United.
Right. Okay. Well then,
I did look at that.
Would have to be Bournemouth Spurs, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a boring game. I just don't.
It could be.
Really. I mean, I suppose without Maddison.
If I was looking to buy some seeds, it would be at 12:30 on Saturday.
We got Richarlison. Come on, we got to. Actually, no, you're right. That should have been the Garden Centre game.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. Captain's data. I mean, it's City against Sheffield United, isn't it? So I don't think we're going to be going there. But there are some really good fixtures this week. You know, Manchester United against Forest is a good fixture on paper.
Yeah.
Chelsea against Luton is a fantastic fixture. You know, Chilwell potentially might be an outside chance. For it. I mean, Foden potentially, given the start of the season that he's had. But
these aren't captains, are they? This is what I mean. In a world where there's Haaland, the alternatives have got to be incredibly strong. You're talking a Rashford on form, which he's not. I mean, they had the Rashford of last season in a United team firing, and you would have maybe considered him at home to Forest. I think what we've seen so far from United, from Rashford and from Forest would mean there's no chance you're going to do that at the moment. But that's what it takes, isn't it? For us to look beyond Haaland, it's got to be an absolute elite FPL asset with a fantastic fixture. And even then, you question it because Salah only just beat him last time. So, and you're not going to go Salah at Newcastle. So, it's too straightforward, which is what we expected this season. Yeah.
Yep. 4.2 touches in the box per 90 for Haaland, which is the highest among all the other options that we're looking at. And I think it's just
shots in the box. Yeah.
Shots in the box. Yeah, it's too high to ignore. Let's take a look at our teams. So this is me with the one transfer that I've made. I've got another 3.
So you kept Rashford and sold Bruno?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't like Bruno.
There is that time when you went for a drink with him, you didn't get on?
I just don't like watching him. I don't like the positions he takes up. I don't like how reliant he is on assists. I think Manchester United will improve when Højlund comes into the team, so it's a bit more of a long-term move. I think Rashford's going to be better when he moves over to the left. And I just don't want him anymore. And I had to move one of them out, and I prefer Rashford. So it might be the wrong move, but Fernandes has gone for Foden.
Yeah.
Onana's in. It's Saliba, Chilwell, and Estupinan. Estupinan. I've got to get his name right. I keep going with the pronunciation. Rashford, Saka, Odegaard, Foden, Richarlison, Pedro and Haaland up top. I've got no bench. Right, Baldock's out. Mubama's not playing. James is injured. So I could move James to Gavardiol.
There's no risks there, is there? I mean, I guess the biggest risk is João Pedro, but you're all right.
I'm going to move Pedro to Jackson.
Oh, okay.
And I think if I move Pedro to Jackson, I'm going to jinx it. The team looks good this week.
It really
got to be a green arrow this week.
The thing is, I mean,
surely.
You look at every team though. You look at my team and General's team last week, and we both, had good teams, and we got really low scores. I think at the start of the season, you're looking at any team, and most of them look strong. It's going to take a few weeks before people emerge as favoured options. And right now, you look at your team and my team, and we haven't got Mbumo and we haven't got Wissa. And based on what we've seen so far, that's probably a mistake. So that's the only thing I look at here and think, but it's Palace at home. I honestly, if Brentford get 2 or 3 goals against Palace, then we really have got to take them seriously, because I just don't see it. I think Palace will keep them at bay, and they might nick a goal, but I don't think there'll be a lot of goals in it. So I think it's all right to have no Brentford. I think we'll get away with it, but then after that, we're going to have to look, I think.
If they look good again and Richarlison looks poor against Bournemouth, I think we're both surely going to be weighing up Richarlison to Mbumo.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when we get to my team, I've got the Matty Cash issue possibly because he didn't play tonight, and does that mean he's out of the team for the weekend? I don't need him because he's first sub, but he'll be someone I'd have to get rid of if I think he's not going to start from now on. But that looks a great team, and if you don't get a green arrow from 1.9 million in the world, then yeah.
I know. Well, let's come to you. You're 3.8 million in the world currently, but again, your team looks really good, and you've already made your moves.
Yeah, so Pickford in goal, which is probably the weakest component of this team, I would say. I mean, but against Wolves, that could be. I don't think there'll be many goals. I think it'll be a 1-0 either way or 0-0. So I could get a clean sheet from that. Gusto, Estupinan and Chilwell. I mean, will Luton score at Chelsea? They could. I think a set play. Chelsea are weak on those, as we saw at West Ham. So I think Chelsea could easily concede. But I think if you're looking at the best defences to own this week, it's probably Man City and then Chelsea, I would say. So I'm happy having Gusto and Chilwell. Estupinan, you've got to play because obviously when I subbed him, put him on the bench, he punished me against West Ham. I don't know if they'll keep a clean sheet, but going forward, he looks fantastic. So he's going to be in our teams every week, isn't he, now? Because he seems fixture-proof and the attacking potential is so strong. So the defence is good. Midfield, Rashford, Richarlison, Diaby, Saka, Salah. I mean, Richarlison hasn't done anything yet. Diaby, again, 5-0 tonight, nothing for Diaby. I mean, I don't know. He looks so
good again.
I can't continue, can it? Because he is obviously a very big threat to teams. So I do think that I'm still holding Diaby, of course. The midfield's good. Salah could get something at Newcastle easily. I mean, he is fairly fixture-proof, but it's too early in the season to say whether or not Salah is the player we saw last season, as there's theories being thrown around, but I think it's too early to say. And then up front, Alvarez and Haaland. I like Alvarez against Sheffield United. I'd love to have got Foden, but I couldn't afford to do that and get rid of Pedro. And I think Pedro and Gabriel were the players I had to get rid of. They've both gone down in price. Alvarez has gone up. And I know people will say, it doesn't matter about the 0-1s at the moment. We're going to have loads of money. Every season we say that and then get to game week 32 and you're like, I'm 0-1 short. Every time that's going to happen, right? So we can say it now that money doesn't matter, but let's see as the season rolls on if it does. And it does matter if you've got Salah, because I've got nothing in the bank, right? So I haven't got money to play with until I sell a Rashford or a Salah. And the longer I hold on to Salah, given that he's a differential, I think the better. So, and the fixtures turn after Newcastle. They've got a good run. So I want to hold him. So the 0-1s do matter. I like the team. Cash first up, but I don't know if he'll start now. So he might be a problem to me from now on, which I knew going into the season.
The 0.1s at this stage of the season are brutal. I mean, the people that couldn't move James to Chilwell, for example, because Chilwell went up 0.1, and now James has gone down 0.1. I had to move Foden in because Foden went up last night, and I wouldn't be able to afford the Jackson move.
Yeah, it's aggressive, isn't it?
It's very aggressive, and you know, you're lying in bed at like 1 o'clock in the morning, where I was last night. Like, do I really want to sell Fernandes for Foden? It wasn't an easy choice by any means, but in the end,
you're lying in bed at 1 o'clock and thinking, "Did that spider come home with me?
did he get in my bag, in my pocket?"
No, I think that. Yeah, I don't like losing value for my team at this stage in the season. I like to, particularly when it's players that you know long term you're not going to want. And Gabriel and Pedro, while they could possibly play this week, I think if you're hand on heart now, do I want them over the season? If I was wildcarding, would I have them? No. So they go, right? So Gusto is a short-term pick. Alvarez might be as well, but they're good short-term picks with the fixtures. So I'm happy with that, with those moves.
No, looks good. Darrell, the spider was huge. It was huge. Not going to lie. And one player we haven't mentioned really, and has been mentioned a little bit in the chat, is Watkins. He's got a hat trick.
Hat trick tonight.
Hat trick tonight. 2 assists in his first 2 games.
The most sole striker so far this week.
Off penalties, but Burnley away. Would you sell him for Jackson or Alvarez, for example?
No chance. No. I mean, like, I think that if you don't own DRB, then having Watkins is merited. I think Villa, we saw the real Villa against Everton. Obviously, it was Everton and they were weak. Burnley's going to be a test, but I do think Villa will win. I think they're a strong side. I think they're a top 6 challenging team, aren't they? They are, right? They're going to be right up there challenging for top 6. So with that in mind, you've got to think Watkins gets between 15 and 20 goals this season. I mean, he's not on pens. I guess that was the factor. But I don't think he's a sell. Is he a buy? Probably not, because there are better options, as we've said, in Alvarez and Wissa and Jackson. But I wouldn't sell him. I'm really surprised to see so many selling him, because he's returned in both games, hasn't he? So I was really shocked to see that traffic.
If you had 2 free transfers, nothing else to really do, would you consider moving Watkins to Jackson or Alvarez? I think that's the decision some people have got.
I guess it is an upgrade with the fixtures.
That's what I think, because I think I'd do it.
I don't know, though. I don't know. It's like, it's not. I mean, Pedro to one of those, yes. Alvarez to, Watkins. I don't know. I think it's a little bit twitchy to do that. Obviously, Villa put a strong side out today to put a game to bed, and they have. So the second leg's a non-event. Mission accomplished there. It's not going to affect his minutes at the weekend. I don't think I would have done. We don't know Burnley yet. We don't know what we're getting from them. We've only seen them against City. We can't really judge them against City. So I think we don't know how good a fixture Burnley away is at the moment. I think it will be a contest, but I still expect Villa to win. I wouldn't have done it. No, I would sit on Watkins for this week.
Okay. So 1 vote for do it, 1 vote for not. Very helpful. Excellent stuff. Right, that is the end of our main show and the content.
Super chats. We've got to get to super chat.
Don't worry. That's just the end of the main bits. We're not done yet. We've still got a few bits. Just got to mention the Black Box League, for example. So big scores here. Ella Holmberg at the top, 176 points. Massive start to the season. Greg Chesterton, who I know very well, is in a lot of my other leagues that I've been in. He's been part of a league I've done since I basically first started playing FPL. Great start to the season for him, 175. Stephen Veldkovic, 173. Zaystro, 171. Momo FGFG, I don't think that's the real name of Momo FGFG, 171. Hardik S, 168. Luke Porteous, 168. Nick Seaman, 168. Sean Flickinger, 167. And Milan Razavsky, Razavi, 166. Well, I don't know how have I ended up.
There's no way I'm pronouncing the name when I do it. There's no way I'm doing that. But,
well, there you go. Yeah. I gave it a go. Sorry for anyone's name who I butchered. But yeah, a top 10 looking really strong. And then the Apprentice League, I've gone top. I don't think it will last, but I'm top for now. Ryan, my 500k to 100k is behind me. So that challenge isn't going particularly well at the moment. Check in with me tomorrow morning. I'll be looking at his team. Your mid-table, 110, and then our 2 kind of main apprentices. Liesel, this year's apprentice, on 106, and Natalie really struggling. Just 88 points. Just 88 points for her. Really tough start.
don't worry, very early on, and I saw last season now you can turn it round. So long way to go for Natalie, and anybody else who's struggling, including myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't have another season, can you, where you've got to kind of rise from the...
It'll be fine. I mean, I look at my team and think it'll be better this week. If I have a red arrow out of that team, then I will start to worry. But I guess if Matoma and Mbumo keep delivering every week, but they're not going to score 38 goals a season, are they? So it's not.
Aston Villa Bozzy thinks so. He says, Mbumo brace at the weekend.
Well, if he keeps doing that, then it's incredible. But I don't see it against Palace, as I've said at the start of the show. So.
I hope not. Let's take those super chats then. These are the ones that I noted. So this is from Shan Raisel. Matheus Nunes and Dooku to Man City. What do we think about those as potential FPL options?
I like Nunes a lot. What I've seen, ball carrier, really strong runner from midfield. Where would he fit in? Difficult to say. Obviously, I guess he would be the 10, so it would be a threat to Foden. But, I mean, Foden's going to have the opportunity to make that role his own, and then De Bruyne's going to come back. I think it's clear De Bruyne is going to have to be managed really carefully. I was surprised he started that Burnley game. I don't know what Pep was playing.
I think it was a wrong decision.
Yeah, I do. Because he played 20 minutes. That's all. So it was really strange to throw him straight in. I don't know why they felt they needed to do that. So I think maybe Pep will really be careful with him from now on and keep him for those Champions League ties where he's obviously his quality is going to make the difference. Foden will have the opportunity when he to make that 10 his own, and we'll see if he does. Nunes, I think, isn't. We know, like Pep, when he signs a new attacking player, will take a season to blood them. So I don't think either of them are going to be major impacts on our FPL season. They'll take minutes off some of our players.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's the bigger worry, is that at the moment Foden looks secure because he's playing on the right or in that kind of 10 pocket.
Yeah.
Doku
but I think,
comes in,
as I said to you about Alvarez, right? Alvarez is a goal scorer, right? They need him in the team because I think Haaland obviously is the main source of goals, but they need another source of goals so that teams have somebody else to concern themselves with. And I don't think any of the midfield fit that profile other than Alvarez, who's a forward, right? We saw how good he can be at taking chances. So I don't think Alvarez is going to come under threat from either Dooku or Nunes should they sign. I think their competition may be for the likes of Silva, maybe Foden and Grealish. But I think Alvarez is at the moment looking very much in favour, and they need him. So I think it's all right for both of them at the moment, and I think Alvarez is more of a mid-term to long-term pick than people think at the moment.
Yep. Just saw Planet. Interesting, going against our Haaland captain this week. Diaz captain and Jota. 255k as well. Had a really strong start to the season. But back in goals in that Liverpool away at Newcastle, though. I don't like that.
It's tough to see, isn't it? I do think there'll be goals, but I haven't got the conviction to back a player as captain in that game. I think with Liverpool, the goals could come from anywhere, couldn't they? That's the problem with them. I mean, like I've said, I've just talked about City and why they need Alvarez, because they need another source of goals. Liverpool have got goals all over that front three, which is actually a front four with Gakpo's in there as well. So at the moment, if Liverpool were to score 2 or 3 goals at Newcastle, it could come from any one of those 4 players. That's the problem. Salah's normally the dominant one, but at the moment, that doesn't appear to be the case. Diaz or Jota, great picks, but I don't know how many goals that they will get in that game at Newcastle. There's better fixtures to come for sure.
Yeah, it's not for me. And then the final one is from Ahmed Atiyah. I'm torn between selling Salah or Rashford to get in Chelsea players. Rashford and Salah, Gabriel, Estupinan for Chilwell, and Sterling or Mbumo.
He's torn between selling Salah or Rashford.
Yeah, Salah or Rashford, or potentially selling. I've seen a few people debating selling Estupinan, by the way. Not just Ahmed. I just think
that's the fixtures.
Yeah. I just think that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, would you Rashford or Salah? You're going to keep Salah, I'm guessing. You nearly sold Rashford this week, didn't you?
Yeah, I nearly sold Rashford. The only reason I didn't was because of the Gabriel situation, of him going down in price, and in long term him maybe being under threat. I would sell Rashford before Salah myself. I think that, who is a better FPL asset? It was close for a period last season, but over time you've got to think Salah will be the better asset. And as I said, the sample's too small before we make any conclusions on Salah being a different player this season. He could be, but I think it's too soon. I would sell Rashford first myself, just because United don't appear to be clicking yet. And I think until they get the striker playing and, perhaps Mount back fit, we might not see Ten Hag, Ten Hag's team. I keep calling him Van Gaal, don't I? I keep getting the Dutch Man United managers mixed up.
It's the Cody mark. It's fun.
Yeah, it wasn't last week though, was it? Can't blame it then. I think it's going to be a few weeks yet before we see United get into the groove. Liverpool are scoring goals, and even when they're playing badly, will score goals. I think so. I think I'd sell Rashford before Salah.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think if you got Salah, you keep him. Given that after Newcastle, it's a decent run. Like you said.
Yeah, and what a differential he can be in that spell. And of course, with the way the money is this season, and the likes of Cameron Archer coming in, we don't need that Salah money yet. The Rashford money, you'll probably have trouble spending that, to be honest.
But if Liverpool get a penalty against Newcastle and Salah doesn't take it, then
that will change things.
That may change things. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. That is it for us. Do give us a like if you've enjoyed this stream. Thank you.
FCAs. You're going to mention the FCAs?
Oh, I forgot about the FCAs.
There you go.
Yeah.
Football Content Awards, of course.
You
love them, don't you?
I do. Football Content Award nominations are up. I haven't got a link in the description, but I will put one. If you're watching this and have a bit of free time, Google Football Content Awards 2023. Head over to voting.
It's Football Content Awards, all one word.com, so that's easy to
there
find.
You go. Okay, fine. And you can vote for FPL BlackBox in Best in Fantasy Football video. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can vote for us for video. If you're listening to this on podcast, you can vote for us for podcast, or you can just vote for us on both. Don't even worry about it. Just go for both. We have won at the last two FCAs. It's in Anfield. It's Anfield this year as well. It would be great to do the hat trick. I've got a feeling Raptor, Andy, they're going to be pushing it. They're going to be pushing it this year.
I thought we were pushing it last year to win it. So, to be nominated and keeping that company and is enough really. And I think it's probably their turn to win one, to be honest, to be fair. So I wouldn't begrudge us not winning one and then winning one for sure, because there's a lot of great content out there.
And this is why Mark is a nicer person than I am, because I would begrudge them massively. No.
You're quickly registering accounts to vote for us, aren't you? Frantically registering those email accounts. It's a good night out as well. I don't think I can make it this season because unfortunately it clashes with the one event that Pip always books every year, and I have to look after the kids while she's at that, so I don't think I can make it. And as you're unsure as well, if we don't make it, we're gonna do one of the members will go in our place and
sign up to the £199 Super Godfather tier to collect our reward.
Typical. You'll make Matty cash out of it, won't you? No, we'll send representatives.
We will send representatives. At the moment, it's the kind of nominations, so we just need to get through the first round, essentially. So do do nominate us, and then the voting will start, and hopefully we'll be a part of that. And then we really need everyone who watches to vote for us, because to stand any chance. And we'd really appreciate it if you did. So there you go. That's the plug for the FCAs. Well remembered, Mark. I completely forgot about that.
That's all right. We'll plug it next week as well. Sure.
Says he doesn't mind, but then comes armed with a.
Well, I know you love your trinkets, right? So
I do. Look, I've got both here.
Oh, you got them both, have you? Yeah. I've got one. I don't know where the other one is. But,
these are the,
there you go. Yeah,
the two awards that we've had. Would love to about a third.
Yeah, you would indeed. That's it, isn't it? We've done 1 hour 40. We're keeping it down to a decent time this season. Very impressed with that. More match of the day content, says Leo, is good.
We'll do another one this year.
We've got to book it. I think we'll start looking at the fixture list, and we like to do it when we have different captains, don't we? Because that's always nice, and that's not going to happen very often. Maybe after wildcards we'll do it, because if we both play the wildcard at the same time, we're going to have different teams then as well. Our teams are going different directions, and what I do like to see, although there is a template, there's quite a bit of variety out there at the moment, I'm starting to see, which is nice. So Yeah, I'm more optimistic about this season, although the soft penalties and the bookings need to calm down a bit, don't they? Just calm that bit.
Just Mbeumo, really. Just calm down. Just,
Yeah.
What did you say? He's not going to be at 36 goals this season. That's pretty soundbite that end of the year as well.
36 returns, the way it's going, though. Yeah.
Cool. Right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll be back again next week, hopefully, and we will see you then.
Good night from me.
Good night, everyone.